Welcome back. In reversal, Donald Trump will not take the stand for a second time in his New York fraud trial. This is a quote from the AP saying Donald Trump said Sunday he has decided against testifying for a second time at his New York civil fraud trial, posting on social media a day before his scheduled appearance that he has very successfully and conclusively testified last month and saw no need to do it again.
Yeah, and the trial has sort of swung in his direction, even though the judge might not rule in his favor. For more on all this, let's welcome in former New Jersey Superior Court Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, great to have you on. Good to see you on this Monday.
Good morning, guys.
So, Judge, take us through why Trump isn't taking the stand today.
Well, the real reason I think he's not taking the stand is because he doesn't want, and his lawyers don't want him to be exposed to cross-examination by the government's lawyers. So if you're a witness in a trial and you testify, you can be cross-examined about the subject of the testimony. But if you're a party in the trial, meaning you're the defendant and you testify, you can be cross-examined about anything that would affect your credibility. That means that Letitia James's lawyers, the people suing the Trump organization and Donald Trump, could ask him about January 6th, about the documents in Mar-a-Lago, about the so-called RICO case in Georgia, anything they want. That would be a very precarious situation for the former president to be in. And I'm glad, for the sake of fairness to him and fairness in the trial, that he and his lawyers decided he should not take the stand. On top of that, he's already testified when the government called him as their witness. He's explained his version of the documents. His organization has produced 3 experts, one of whom said the banks didn't lose a dime, and 2 of whom said these things are not definite. There's always a little wiggle room. That's the way real estate practice is in New York City. Right. So I think he's in about as good a shape as he could expect to be, given the pretrial rulings by this judge.
So, Judge, an appeals court last week upheld the Trump gag order in the federal January 6th case, but the scope has been narrowed from the Hill, saying it removed Jack Smith from the list of protected court staff, giving Trump free rein to go after a prosecutor he is fond of taunting as deranged. So what does this mean for Trump and Smith?
Well, it means that Donald Trump can say whatever he wants about Jack Smith. Now, that should not be a big deal. Donald Trump, not because he's the former president, not because he's a defendant in a criminal case, but because he's a human being who has the right to say what he wants about the government, can now exercise that right. I mean, stated differently, the original gag order saying the defendant can't criticize the prosecutor is ridiculous. Now, you criticize a prosecutor at your peril. You know, there's an old one-liner. Don't taunt the alligator until after you cross the stream. But you have the right to criticize the prosecutor. A difficult order for the judge to enforce. Yeah. So he can't criticize witnesses and he can't criticize the court staff, but he can say whatever else he wants about anybody else he chooses.
I like that about the alligator, Judge. That makes sense.
It was a Massachusetts alligator.
It doesn't surprise me. Judge, let's talk about Hunter Biden. So I've got James Comer coming on in about an hour, and I've got a lot of questions for him. Hunter Biden supposed to testify on Wednesday behind closed doors on Capitol Hill. Comer told me a week ago that if Hunter does not show up to testify after being subpoenaed, he will be held in contempt of Congress, which then would mean the Biden DOJ could then charge him and move forward with contempt of Congress charges. Joe Biden controls Merrick Garland, controls the DOJ. Do you expect Daddy's DOJ to prosecute Hunter?
No, of course not. In fact, I don't think that any DOJ would prosecute a criminal defendant who invoked his Fifth Amendment right not to testify. Now, if he doesn't show up, that's a serious issue. When you're subpoenaed, you have to show up, unless your lawyers have negotiated some alternate arrangement. But if he shows up and invokes his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, a right that all persons have in the United States of America, he can't be prosecuted for that. The idea of a criminal defendant testifying under oath before Congress while he's still a criminal defendant and his case hasn't been resolved is almost unheard of. On the other hand, I understand where Congressman Comer is going. Congressman Comer, as he'll tell you in an hour, has a mountain of evidence showing behavior on the part of Hunter Biden's father that the American public has the right to know about and they want to verify or confirm this evidence out of the mouth of the person who produced it, the son.
Yeah, as you just said, if he doesn't show up, that's a whole nother issue. Do you think he does? Do you think he shows up? Do you think he shows up?
Well, I know his lawyer, Abby Lowell, very well. Abby's one of the best criminal defense lawyers in D.C. My guess is that he'll advise his client to show up and invoke the Fifth. Again, if he doesn't show up, he's just adding.
Which, by the way, Judge, might have been back to the alligator, but this might have been part of the reason that he was indicted on Friday, because now he's got cover. Now he can go in there and plead the Fifth because of the new California indictment. And for whatever reason, the rest of the media doesn't seem to understand that.
You know what, Rob? This is dangerous because you're starting to think like an experienced defense lawyer. I think you make a very good point. The government is very astute about timing indictments,
right,
to embarrass the defendant, to humiliate the defendant, to frustrate the defendant, or in this case, to frustrate Congress.
The defendant, exactly. Judge Andrew Napolitano, we appreciate all your time this morning. Appreciate you breaking that down on this Monday morning. Thank you. Lots more to go here on Wake Up America. Stay with us.